Usually when I come on here and talk about companies taking inspiration from Nintendo, that generally means I'm reviewing a game similar to Mario Kart, Mario Party, Super Smash Bros, or maybe one of their Mario sports games. But it's rare that we see Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, or in this case Disney, take inspiration from any of Nintendo's other franchises. We've seen a little inspiration from old school Zelda and a Pokemon parody from Cartoon Network, but today we're seeing something completely new, a challenger to Animal Crossing. It's honestly such a brilliant idea that had never really crossed my mind before. Take the Animal Crossing formula that the world has become obsessed with and replace the characters and theming with a popular IP. One of my issues with Animal Crossing is that I eventually just get bored with it. Recruiting new villagers or getting new furniture and clothing ends up losing its appeal. But if you cover all of that stuff with Disney characters, well, now you've potentially captured my interest long term. And yes, as you can tell, I've stepped outside of my usual lanes of Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon to cover Disney. As I mentioned in my Barnyard review, I'm going to be reviewing newly released Disney games going forward. Disney is doing a lot of interesting stuff in the video game space at the moment, and my plan was always to cover Disney after Nickelodeon was finished. But it's going to take me until at least 2024 to cover every Nick game, so rather than wait, I'm introducing Disney video game history right now. Covering games from the same network non-stop causes me to massively burn out at times, particularly when there are a bunch of mediocre games in a row. Tossing in newly released Disney games alongside new Cartoon Network games and my regular Nick content should hopefully prevent that burnout and also result in higher quality videos. Hopefully you guys are on board with this and don't react like that one dude who wrote an embarrassingly long paragraph calling me a sellout for reviewing multiverses. I'm Brandon and I'll be your captain for our maiden voyage through Disney video game history. Disney Dreamlight Valley released in early access on September 6, 2022 for basically every single system that can play a video game. Personally, I played this game on PC via Game Pass for the review. The game is intended to be free to play once it releases fully in 2023. However, if you don't already have a Game Pass subscription and you want to get in on the fun, you'll have to actually purchase a Founders Pack. Multiverses did a similar thing with its early access, except that was for like a week, while this early access could technically last for a year or even longer for all we know. The game is published by Gameloft and it's being developed by one or many of their internal studios, of which they have 18, but I can't find anywhere which specific studios developed this game. The press release announcing its release does mention a quote from a dev at Gameloft Montreal, so maybe they're the lead team on this. Gameloft is entirely known for their mobile games. If you look at the list of games they've put out, it probably doesn't fill you with confidence, but clearly they're doing something right because these big name companies keep coming back to work with them. Look, they worked on a game featuring one of the greatest and most attractive characters ever thought up. One of the more notable games they've developed is Disney Magic Kingdoms, which seems to have been the foundation for several key mechanics in Dreamlight Valley. The Disney Magical World series on the 3DS also shares a lot of similarities with this game. Clearly it's an idea Disney has been interested in for a while, and there's been major buzz around the game. Could Disney Dreamlight Valley be more than just a cash grab? Speaking of grabbing cash, is your personal information at risk? It probably is if you're not protecting yourself with the sponsor of today's video, Aura. Did you know that identity theft is the fastest growing crime in America? Somebody ends up on the receiving end of an attack every 14 seconds, which is roughly how long it's been since I first started talking about identity theft. With Aura, it's so easy to stay protected. Aura bundles identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, password management, antivirus software, and a VPN all into a single package, which you can manage from an easy-to-use app. Despite the rapid increases in identity theft attacks, most people still aren't taking this threat seriously, and even those that are aware of the dangers probably aren't protecting themselves adequately. But with Aura monitoring the dark web for your emails, passwords, and social security number, and providing alerts right to your phone, you can rest easy knowing you're one step ahead. Aura also monitors suspicious credit inquiries so somebody doesn't take out a credit card or loan in your name, and Aura's VPN protects you while you're browsing. To make sure you're protected against identity theft, go to aura.com/cartoonreview, which is linked down in the description. That link will give you a 2-week free trial so you can test out Aura and see just how much of your information it can find on the dark web. I want to thank Aura once again for sponsoring today's video. Now that my identity is safe, let's head to the Dreamlight Valley and protect some Disney characters from a different dark presence. Animal Crossing is dead to me. Disney Dreamlight Valley is unapologetically an Animal Crossing clone, and you know what? That's not a bad thing. For too long, Nintendo has run unopposed in so many genres like kart races and platform fighters, and I honestly think not having genuine competition has made them a bit complacent. While their prestige single-player titles like mainline Mario and Zelda have been generation-defining experiences, you only have to look to their recent sports titles or their lackluster support for Mario Party to see a company that seems to be okay with phoning it in when they're not being challenged. While Animal Crossing New Horizons could never be accused of being phoned in, it feels a bit like a product of a bygone era in the modern gaming landscape. What I mean by this is that a game like Animal Crossing is ripe for these huge content updates that you regularly see in live service games. It seems like a season pass kind of formula would work perfectly for Animal Crossing. Yet after the initial boom it saw due to everybody in the world being locked inside with nothing to do, it feels like Animal Crossing New Horizons quickly became irrelevant. Disney Dreamlight Valley takes most of the things that make Animal Crossing such a charming experience, but it adds modern gaming ideas to give players a reason to keep coming back. One of those nice additions is the inclusion of an actual story here. Is it the most unique and interesting story ever told? No, but I feel like it gives the game a bit of a structure and purpose. It's not like the story is super intrusive either. You're still pretty much just doing all of the basic things you'd be doing in Animal Crossing, but now there's a narrative reason for it. Essentially, the Dreamlight Valley is a magical place where characters from all Walt Disney Animation and Pixar franchises live together in harmony, even villains. But the world fell into darkness when a mysterious entity known as the Forgetting suddenly appeared. This caused people to lose their memories and eventually move away from the valley. There was also a mysterious ruler of Dreamlight Valley, but unfortunately nobody has any clue who that was because of the Forgetting. Of course, you find yourself in the role of the Chosen One who will dispel the Forgetting and return Dreamlight Valley to its former glory. All of this story is dumped on you pretty much immediately, and the game actually sets it up with a nice opening cutscene that gave me a little bit of a Ghibli vibe. It's kind of unfortunate that this seems to be the only time you encounter something like this. I haven't completed the entire main story just yet, but in my 15+ hours I never saw something like this again.
Finding the perfect place for a rest, you begin remembering these long-lost dreams and drift off to sleep.
As you could guess, the game kicks off with you designing your own character who has been dropped into the Disney world. The character creator is pretty extensive, and for once in my life I actually designed my character sensibly instead of making the ugliest abomination known to man. Until I started unlocking clothing options, and then I just started taking the piss. After that, you're dropped straight into the valley, which looks like complete shit. These ugly night thorns have been growing everywhere, but thankfully you have the power to remove them. You're then quickly given a pickaxe, shovel, watering can, and fishing rod. I wonder where I've seen all of this before. One of the great quality of life improvements in Dreamlight Valley, at least in my opinion, is that these tools don't have durability. You can simply use them forever. Maybe other people enjoy it, but having to constantly craft new tools in Animal Crossing is just tedious. But just like Animal Crossing, the storage limits will be a huge pain in the ass. Maybe even more so here. You're given all of your tools instantly and at pretty much the exact same time, so your eyes light up and you want to start smacking and digging everything up. Unfortunately, your on-hand storage won't be able to handle that, And your storage chests won't either. I always prioritize upgrading storage space in Animal Crossing, and it's exactly the same here. Those resources that are eating up your space can be sold though, and it will be one of your main ways to earn currency, particularly with the gems you can mine. While Animal Crossing is clearly designed as a game that you can chip away at day by day with a finite limit on what you can do in one sitting, Dreamlight Valley is like its hyperactive sibling. The devs here want you to be able to do something at all times, which is why the various resources you can gather are always respawning in a matter of minutes. Even growing crops takes no time at all. Again, I fully admit that a lot of people might not like this change, but personally, I love it. One of the reasons I end up dropping off Animal Crossing every time is because I eventually just lose motivation to check in every single day to do like 30 minutes of work. The game ends up feeling like I'm completing a chore. The crops that I mentioned play a rather large part in Dreamlight Valley because you constantly need to eat food. In a decision that seems like it was inspired by Minecraft, your character has an energy meter that is depleted when you're gathering resources. Once this hits 0, you can't perform those actions, but there are no other repercussions other than that. You can still run around, talk to people, complete quests and stuff. If you're busy, you can stuff your face with some raw fruit or vegetables, or even spices if you're a real sicko to slightly replenish your energy. But to really stock up on energy, you're going to have to become a chef. Cooking is a big part of the game, and you'll slowly discover recipes as you play, or through trial and error. Or if you're impatient like me, you'll go online and look up all the recipes. You'll still need to find specific ingredients to make these more effective dishes, something you won't be able to do right away. Your energy meter progressively improves too as you level up, which is nice, and overall I never really found this whole system to be too cumbersome. The other way to refill your health is to go back to your house, which you're gifted when you arrive in Dreamlight Valley. And guess what? You don't immediately fall into debt here. Who would have thought that there would be a more money-hungry character in existence than Scrooge McDuck? Instead, Dreamlight Valley is very hands-off with expanding your house. You can expand it whenever you feel like it. And that's another thing I really like here. While the narrative is guiding you through the game, it doesn't feel like you're constantly being pigeonholed into doing any specific upgrades or unlocking things in a super specific order. Obviously, you get the ability to decorate your house, so you'll frequently come across new furniture in unique ways, or you'll just go purchase it from Scrooge. There's also these little companion pets which don't seem to really do anything, but hey, they're cute. So your main quest is built around restoring Dreamlight Valley and bringing back characters that left. And to do this, you head to the Dream Castle. Here you can access different realms, which are basically each movie's little universe. And as you can see, Gameloft clearly plans to introduce a bajillion of these. Bringing over characters from their own realm always goes the same way. You head in there, help them out with some sort of problem, and then you convince them to move back to Dreamlight Valley, where you build them a house. While doing this, you start to grow a friendship with that character, which you nurture in some pretty typical Animal Crossing ways, like bringing them gifts. But the best way to increase this friendship level is by completing quests for them. These mostly center around improving the valley, learning new mechanics, or bringing a new character to town. Nothing revolutionary, but the way they're written really had me investing in these characters. Take Mickey for example. His individual side quests are pretty much all focused on trying to figure out what's happened with Minnie's disappearance. The way he talks about Minnie is super heartbreaking. I wasn't expecting to feel these kinds of emotions now that I was done with Barnyard. I grew attached to certain characters or loathed other characters based on their quests. Dreamlight Valley was quickly starting to feel like a living and breathing town where I had actual opinions on my neighbours, something I'd never really felt in Animal Crossing. I know a lot of people go crazy over the hunky cat and stuff, but I never felt that strongly about any of my villagers. As you unlock more characters, you'll also come across these memory orbs. Sometimes these reveal a piece of a screenshot of a Disney film, which is kind of lame. But the real interesting part is the memories from the valley's ruler. These give you little tidbits about life in the valley before the forgetting. Something about hearing these tidbits and seeing insights into how the ruler viewed these characters really hooked me. One of your biggest tasks early on is working towards being able to expand Dreamlight Valley. At first, you'll only be able to access the main hub area and the meadows section, which also restricts which characters you can bring in. The game asks you to reach a friendship level of 5 with a few characters before giving you an orb, which after activating allows you to unlock new biomes. But these biomes aren't unlocked by spending your money the same way upgrading your house or any of the shops is. Instead, you're using Dreamlight to unlock them. Dreamlight is earned via completing Dreamlight duties, which are basically typical tasks you'll achieve just by playing the game. It's stuff like catch X amount of fish or have X amount of conversations, and they also have daily duties too, so theoretically you should never run out of ways to earn more Dreamlight. In my experience, you earn Dreamlight at a pretty solid rate. I never really found myself sitting around with nothing major to do, wishing I was able to open the next biome but not having enough Dreamlight to do it. But what could really be Disney Dreamlight Valley's trump card and give it serious longevity is the live service aspect. The game calls these events, and it's essentially the equivalent of a battle pass or season pass. Here you complete duties that are similar in style to the Dreamlight duties. Completing these rewards you with tokens which you can then spend on exclusive rewards that are themed to that event. Currently they have a Pixar event running, so you're getting stuff from The Incredibles, Lightyear, Cars. Progressing through the event is actually entirely tied to purchasing stuff. There are different tiers, each with several unique items you can buy with your earned tokens. Buying 3 items on a tier unlocks the next tier. It's quite an interesting execution of the Battle Pass idea, and I think it kinda works. In the free model, you're basically just forced to buy every item that's available to keep moving forward. However, the premium version, which is purchased via the Moonstone currency, unlocks more items that you can purchase, with these items definitely being a lot better. And with more items to choose from on each tier, you don't have to spend your tokens on items just to progress. You can be more selective. Not to mention, you're given more duties to complete in the premium version, so you'll progress through the tiers a lot quicker. Also, it seems that you can earn more Moonstone through the Battle Pass, which is something Multiverses has been criticized for not doing. As far as I could tell though, Moonstone isn't currently available to purchase. Everybody who is playing the game right now has to purchase one of the Founders Packs, which gives you 8,000 of the currency. I assume they're planning to launch this later as they get player feedback on the economy of the game. I like this approach as a way to test the premium currency. It's much better than having that currency available to purchase straight away, and then having players complain that the season pass isn't of value. So my time with Disney Dreamlight Valley has clearly been mostly positive, but I honestly wouldn't recommend you go out and play it right now. This is entirely because Disney Dreamlight Valley is very obviously an early access title. I contrast this to Multiverses, which is also still in beta currently. Multiverses is pretty damn functional, and coming across genuinely game-altering bugs is pretty rare, at least in my experience with the game. Dreamlight Valley, on the other hand, is riddled with bugs that do hurt the experience, some of them completely game-breaking. There's small-scale stuff like characters disappearing from dialogue scenes, which is pretty infrequent and doesn't really cause that much of an issue. But then you have things that make the game cumbersome to play. I've recently been running into a glitch where all of a sudden the game would freak out and most buttons would stop working. When this would happen while running around in the world, I could still perform some actions and sometimes it would fix itself and the game would go back to normal. When I encountered this glitch in menus, it was game over. The only way to solve it was to completely shut down and relaunch the game. On average, I think I was encountering this glitch once every 2 hours, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but still a massive pain in the ass. But the absolute biggest glitch was also the one with the most bizarre cause. It's no longer in the game as of the last patch, but for some reason people playing Dreamlight Valley with their time zone set to Australia or New Zealand were experiencing these weird issues where certain items just wouldn't activate. On top of that, if you quit the game while your character was in the well-fed state, the next time you tried to boot up Dreamlight Valley, it straight up would not work, like the game just wouldn't load. You could always skirt around these issues by changing your time zone until the patch arrived, but it was a significant issue. The fact that they patched it out pretty quickly gives me a reason to be optimistic about the longevity of this game though. It feels like the devs are working overtime to squash these bugs as quickly as they can, and I feel confident that once Dreamlight Valley releases its full free-to-play version, it's going to be quite polished. I just hope they introduce a way to actually sort our inventories by then. As with any crossover game I examine on this channel, I need to go over the crossover elements with a fine-tooth comb. Considering the absolute depth of characters they have to choose from, I wouldn't blame you for being a little disappointed that currently, at least by my count, the game has just 17 characters from 8 different franchises. But again, this is a game in early access, so you can't expect the entire Disney world from it just yet. And just like I'm confident Gameloft will polish the hell out of this game, I also feel pretty confident that it's going to keep receiving new content. They've already announced that a Toy Story realm is coming this year, and I'd be shocked if we didn't see more Pixar realms announced in conjunction with the Pixar event they're running. It's got potential, but if you go in expecting a gigantic crossover right now, you're going to be disappointed. It does have voice acting though, obviously not for every line of dialogue because that would be insane, but you do get short quips from characters which gives a boost to the world's liveliness. Stuff like characters humming along to iconic songs really pulls the vibe of Dreamlight Valley together. And speaking of songs, you've got a number of Disney tunes making up the soundtrack, but right now it's actually surprisingly repetitive. There are maybe half a dozen of these at the moment, and if you're playing for any lengthy period of time, it's going to break your brain. Hearing these songs on loop hour after hour made me appreciate what parents go through when their kids enter that phase of wanting to watch one Disney movie over and over again.
Receiving incoming transmission.
Disney Dreamlight Valley has all the potential to be an incredible game, but I can't in good faith say that it's an incredible game right this moment. Yes, I'm well and truly addicted to it, but it's riddled with glitches and it feels like more and more are just popping up. I'm actually a little bit confused as to why Disney Dreamlight Valley is even in early access. The only thing that really needs the kind of feedback you get from this is the events. Outside of that, it feels like Gameloft should have just finished making the base game and released it properly. And the fact that you have to pay to play this right now makes it even easier to say that I wouldn't recommend it. Maybe if it came out in this state and was free to play, I could look past all the bugs, but having to drop a decent amount of money for this experience, yeah, that's a bit too much at the moment. Unless you're already a Game Pass subscriber, which means you basically do get this game for free, I would recommend waiting for the free-to-play launch, or at least sitting back for a bit until most of the bugs are ironed out. The game also has cross-progression, so if you can't help your curiosity, start the game via Game Pass, and then transfer over to your platform of choice if you're enjoying it enough to pay for it. Next time, we're heading back to Nickelodeon for the final ever Fairly OddParents game. Despite airing its final episode in 2017, Fairly OddParents would never receive another game after 2006's clash with the Anti-World on the GBA. For the most part, the Fairly OddParents games haven't been dreadful, more so missed opportunities. Fingers crossed they go out with a bang and either deliver a great game or something hilariously bad. To make sure you don't miss that video or any of my upcoming reviews, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the channel, jump over to Twitter and give me a follow.